We caught some people vandalizing our beautiful reflecting pool. We have the reflecting pool. They took a cutter, a box cutter or something very sharp. And can you imagine, where did these people come up with this? And they threw a little fertilizer in the water, which is not good. Fertilizer doesn't go well with water. Clear, beautiful water doesn't work well. But they caught him.
Wait, did you catch that? A former Olympic athlete is literally facing a decade behind bars for allegedly ripping apart a $14 million national monument with his bare hands.
Actually caught him, and those guys have some problems ahead of them. But they did some damage, but it looks beautiful. I just looked at it, Doug, and it looks beautiful, and they're going to fix it. They cut the bottom with a knife and pulled it and tried to do it as much damage as possible. These are sick people.
Look at the absolute chaos happening in the water right there. We are talking about a historic landmark, the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool, completely compromised. It is wild to think someone just decided to wade into a federal monument, pull up the industrial lining, and supposedly dump fertilizer into the water to trigger an algae bloom. If you look closely at the edges where he was pulling, you can see how thick that sealant is. It is not something that just accidentally peels off. It requires serious, deliberate force. You do not just stumble into a federally protected zone and start deconstructing a $14 million renovation project without knowing exactly what you are doing. The sheer audacity to pull this off in broad daylight, surrounded by tourists and park rangers, is baffling. It completely changes how we view the security of our most iconic spaces.
In recent days, at least 5 people have been arrested for vandalizing the pool. Another 5 were issued citations. Atlantic and
Look at the guy in the carrot shirt getting escorted away in cuffs by multiple park police officers. The authorities are absolutely not playing around with this anymore. When you see federal officers physically restraining individuals right on the National Mall, it signals a massive shift in how these property crimes are being handled. For a long time, there was an assumption that messing with public monuments might just get you a slap on the wrist or a simple citation. Not today. They are actively rounding up suspects and slapping them with severe felony charges. This isn't just about some minor graffiti or a prank gone wrong. They are treating this as a coordinated destruction of government property. The visual of citizens being hauled off in zip ties right in front of the Washington Monument is meant to send a chilling, zero-tolerance message to anyone else thinking of testing the waters.
National Guard and police have been all over the mall. How would these vandals have gotten so close to do something like that? Do you have any proof of
I mean, we didn't have a lot of them then. Who would think that somebody would go into a pool and take a knife and start cutting it?
But do you have proof of that?
Yeah, we have
you have
proof.
Photos or videos?
Well, let's put it this way. When you have a 350, I think it's 350, not 250, a 350-foot slit from one end to the other, you think that's proof? You think that's proof?
Reporters have been down there today looking for that slit that you mentioned, and there's no evidence of it.
All you'd have to do is see the Parks Department. They'll show it to you. See the secretary. But I saw it. They cut it. They cut it very violently. The same thing with the floor. They cut it. And then they lifted it. They pulled it. And that's what it is.
Did you hear that exact description? A 350-foot continuous slit carved right into the bottom of the pool. To put that into perspective, that is longer than an entire football field of pure intentional damage. You do not accomplish something on that massive scale with a tiny pocket knife while nobody is looking. That takes time, physical stamina, and a brazen disregard for being caught. Think about the logistics required to drag a sharp object through heavy-duty industrial sealant underwater for 350 feet without someone intervening immediately. It completely exposes a shocking vulnerability in how these high-profile national treasures are monitored. The fact that someone could execute a destructive act of this magnitude right under the noses of federal security is exactly why the hammer is coming down so incredibly hard on the suspects involved right now.
Grand jury has returned a felony indictment against a defendant, David Hearn, for felony destruction of property, for which he faces 10 years in prison. The indictment is in response to an incident that occurred on June 19th of 2026, in which the defendant Hearn ripped a piece of recently installed sealant on the bottom of the reflecting pool at the Lincoln Memorial. The evidence shows, and we will prove beyond a reasonable doubt, that Hearn willfully destroyed property at the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool. By Hearn's own admission, on June 19th, he reached down into the pool. Our evidence further shows that the National Park Service employees observed Hearn actually forcefully and violently pulling up and removing the bottom liner with both hands. According to witnesses, Hearn damaged approximately 2 square feet of sealant from the bottom of the pool. A Parks employee actually told Hearn to stop his behavior and stop what he was doing. Hearn reacted by shouting at that Parks employee, saying that she cared too much about the reflecting pool, and why did she even care, since it wasn't her pool.
Did he have any tools, or was it just his bare hand?
Right now, we believe it's his bare hands, both hands.
So does that indicate in your belief that it was probably damaged before, or do you believe that he...
Oh, he damaged it.
Further, but do you believe it had already been damaged before?
He damaged the pool.
Before he touched it?
He damaged this pool.
But there have been, all these videos, obviously.
Well, good. I'm glad you've got that evidence. Come on in the grand jury, you can testify.
Now pay very close attention to what the prosecutor just detailed here. This wasn't a gentle touching or an accidental scrape of the pool floor. She used words like forcefully and violently pulling up the bottom liner with both hands. It paints a picture of a guy who was highly motivated to cause as much structural damage as humanly possible before he was stopped. When park employees actually confronted him and told him to knock it off, he didn't run away or apologize. He stood his ground and allegedly screamed at them, questioning why they even cared since it wasn't their personal pool. That level of entitlement and aggression elevates this from a bizarre act of vandalism to a highly confrontational federal crime. It is no wonder the grand jury did not hesitate to return a felony indictment when faced with that kind of eyewitness testimony.
By the name of David Hearn, a guy who once represented this country in actual water sports, now facing a felony for assaulting water.
You really have to stop and process the identity of the main suspect here. This is not some random prankster looking for internet clout. This is David Hearn, a former Olympic canoeist who literally represented the United States on the global stage. A man who dedicated his entire life to competing in water sports is now facing a decade in federal prison for assaulting a body of water. The irony is completely off the charts. You would expect a former Olympian to have a profound respect for national symbols and the flag. But instead, he is accused of using his athletic strength to intentionally dismantle a piece of American history. It makes you wonder what was going through his head. Going from wearing the Team USA uniform to wearing a county jail jumpsuit over a stunt like this is a staggering fall from grace.
Yeah. Is there any update to that case? Is there any evidence that you can point to as a follow-up?
I was at the reflecting pool yesterday, and I think it's very sad. Someone intentionally did a tremendous amount of damage to the pool, and you can actually see where all the cutting is. They took a sharp object and cut for many feet along the pool.
Do you have pictures of that?
Well, when I file a charge, I'll be happy to show you.
Notice the absolute intensity in the room as the prosecutor defends these heavy charges. Critics have been arguing that slapping a 10-year felony on someone for cutting pool lining is way too harsh. But she is entirely unfazed. She is leaning on cold, hard evidence, specifically eyewitnesses who have absolutely zero motive to lie. These are disinterested park employees who were just doing their jobs when they stumbled into this nightmare. By pointing directly to neutral witnesses and physical evidence, the DOJ is building a bulletproof narrative that this was a calculated attack, not a momentary lapse in judgment. They are making it crystal clear that your resume, even if you are an Olympian, will not shield you when you cross the line into federal property destruction. The legal strategy here is designed to be overwhelming and completely unapologetic.
Today, a grand jury has returned a felony indictment against a defendant, David Hearn, for felony destruction of property, for which he faces 10 years in prison. The indictment is in response to an incident that occurred on June 19th of 2026, in which the defendant Hearn ripped a piece of recently installed sealant on the bottom of the reflecting pool at the Lincoln Memorial. The evidence shows, and we will prove beyond a reasonable doubt, that Hearn willfully destroyed property at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. This was a deliberate act to damage the reflecting pool at the National Mall that members of the National Park Service actually have worked hard to restore and have witnessed.
10 years in prison for a dip in the pool. Let me know what you think in the comments and hit subscribe for more breakdowns.